What does the glamour look like? What does the reality of it look like? Because there are challenges that come up when it comes to how you run your business, how you structure your time.
Your brain starts to change, I think, when you travel, especially when you live somewhere for longer than a few days. Your brain's like, okay, I'm gonna be here. I better pay attention to some things.
You study the business, you study marketing, you study sales, you study. At some point, you're going to need to put it into action, figure out most of it actually in experience.
You can make up an amazing experience.
There's a chance you'll get eaten by an alligator, but
It's totally worth it. You
so
want
we
to
have
show where you are? Can you show like, your
it's a
video
bit of a mess,
side?
but so I'll show you. So my wife is right
Oh,
now
we lost your
cleaning
video. Okay, that was pretty anticlimactic.
I know.
Show us the glamour of travel. We are live. Welcome to the Coach's Journey podcast. Hello, Coaches Nation. We are here today to talk about a really glamorous seeming topic. And it is kind of glamorous, it's true. Which is traveling while coaching. I'm Daniel, and I'm here with my co-host Faisal on the Coach's Journey podcast, where we have really real conversations as coaches actively building our businesses. And one of the things that I like about this topic, Faisal, is not only are you like a great example of it that I want to learn from today, but like this is a topic that I think a lot of coaches I've talked to really aspire to, which is to travel. And we can talk about some of the reasons for that maybe, but one of the things I love about travel is how it just kind of broadens your environment in your mind. But I think the aspiration of travel and the reality of travel sometimes are a little bit different. Like that's true of everything in life, in many ways, all the things we want to do. But there's a lot of glamour to the idea of traveling and working remotely and coaching while you're traveling. And people always imagine like, oh, I'm sitting on a beach in Bali, with my laptop or whatever, or I'm flying around the world. I've done a lot of travel for work too before I became a coach. So I've had like different experiences of travel of different types. So I'm really excited to talk to you about it, Fazal, because you've got a lot of travel experience as well. So this is gonna be a
Yeah,
really fun topic.
I'm
I
right
know
in the
she's
middle
like
of it.
gonna be missing out because she loves traveling too, and she's done her share. But maybe we'll do another one
Yeah.
with her.
She's actually in the area that I'm in. She's just not on the podcast. She's actually in Florida too. Emma, we might be meeting with her today.
Yeah.
So, before we jump into the topic, I do wanna remind coaches a couple of things. One, we have a promotion going on. We're changing communities from Facebook to school. So if you haven't jumped on up until April 1st, 2024, we have a promotion of $27 a month. And for the first 30 days, you can try it out for free. You're going to get free access to our community. You will have access to everything, and you get to try it out. And what we're trying to build is a community of very engaged coaches who are actually working on their business and on their craft as coaches to move it forward. And you will find the link below somewhere in this video. And if you don't have it, just share with us, whether it's in school or Facebook, wherever you're seeing this, or YouTube. Just let us know. We'll share the link with you. And second, we've done a lot of episodes on marketing, on sales, on delivery, on different aspects of coaching, on different skill sets and craft. Definitely watch our other episodes. Subscribe to our channel so you get access to it. And you will also find a link that takes you to different channels where the podcast is aired, whether it's in the podcast platforms, YouTube, or other places that we do. So check that out as well.
Yeah, we're
And
curating some of the best ones in the school community. To like, if you want the top most important podcasts, most powerful, then we're gonna put those directly in the school community for you. It's a selection of some of them. So
Yeah, we go live in only in our school community, and many of these podcast episodes get aired a couple of months later once they get edited and everything. But we want our members to have first access to them, and we're also curating some of the podcast episodes along with our coaching and training sessions within our community and the members area in school that will actually help you move forward along with the support that we're giving you.
yeah, and it's exciting. We you can see we're still working out how to go live and how to do all the technical stuff. But it's fun to be setting up this new platform where we're gonna bring coaches together in a very undistracted way. Sort of like the difference with school versus Facebook. School SKOOL, that is our new platform. Um, where our coaches come together, and these are people who are committed to building the coaching business. Whereas in Facebook, it's a very distraction oriented place where a lot of people who they might be learning, and that's fine, you can be learning in our community, but we want to get people who are actively choosing to build. um, in our community in school. So with that being said, Faisal, let's kick this off. Where are you right now? Where are you normally?
So my home base is in Canada, about an hour west of Toronto region. For those who don't, generally people are aware of Toronto as one of the major cities. And we've been here about a month and a half now in Florida region. With my camper is right behind me. It's a bit of a mess around me here right
Yeah,
now. My
love
wife
it.
is actually cleaning the car. So we've been on the road for about a month and a half. We have a 2 more weeks to go until we get back to Canada. So we're actually, this was sort of like a test. It wasn't just a vacation, it was more of a workation. So half the time I was working, half the time I wasn't. So I had about a month off and a month I was working out of the close to 2 months. And we were actually testing out the lifestyle around this, and so far it seems like we actually really enjoy this, and we're even 90% in the decision to kind of continue to do, especially winter months in Canada. We're going to come down south for a good 4.5 months from next year on, and we might even actually be doing this full time to be on the road. So it's a fairly big decision on our part. We haven't even announced it to most people. So if
Well,
somebody,
now you have.
well, I literally have
Your wife's
announced
like,
it to the
wait,
whole
what?
world. Like what? No, well, my wife knows that
No, that
some
you're
other
telling
people
other
that
people before you decide.
I know, right? I was like, what? The guy started getting messages.
That's funny.
Not that a lot of people that I know are listening to this podcast.
Yeah, I know, right? But I think that's awesome. Like this, I think for people who are listening who have never traveled for an extended period, um, there's a lot that goes along with it. So Faisal, I just want to say, like, first of all, I love that you're doing that. You're reminding me of like how important it is to me. And you've got two kids, right? You've got a couple of kids that are very small, under the age of 5. So, or
Hmm.
yeah, they should
Well,
be older.
one is almost 8.
Yeah,
The other one is under 5, so she's 4.5.
one under 5, yeah. Because I've got two kids under the age of 2, under the age of 3. Yeah, the hardest ones are the ones that they need a little more attention to be able to travel. So those,
Yeah.
yeah, you have one kid under 5, but I was thinking of my kids. I have 2 under 5, and I had a similar situation where I traveled in Costa Rica with my family. At the time, we only had one kid.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember that.
yeah, and uh, we decided to go for 2 months to live in Costa Rica with one child, and the child was like a one and a bit, and 1.5, I think. And we spent the winter months basically. It's like a winter thing. Just
Yeah.
leave all the snow.
Anybody in the East Coast in North America, they if they have the opportunity, they would want to do something like that. And I want to speak a little bit to the aspiration of it. We're not saying that every coach needs to do this or every entrepreneur will do this. I know plenty of coaches who like their home base and they don't like traveling as much. But the one of the things that I've heard over and over from coaches is that they are curious about the world. They are curious about different cultures. They are curious about living with location freedom and financial freedom. So that is one of the aspirations. So that's why we're talking about this. What does it look? What does the glamour look like? What does the reality of it look like? Because there are challenges that come up when it comes to how you run your business, how you structure your time, and also how when you're going away with your family, what are the challenges around that? There are lots of things logistically that you need to figure out, and also there are internal barriers that I didn't realize how many internal barriers I had as I was going towards this. And it also helps you grow in a lot of ways because you're dealing with a lot of unpredictability, a lot of chaos, and a lot of in your internal world, but also in around you and the way that you're logistically setting up, but also in your business. How are you going to run that, especially if you have multiple businesses, which both of us do? um, and make sure that you maintain those and grow in those and also grow as a person too. So there's lots that happens that a lot of coaches don't think about, and because I mean you don't think about those things until you jump in. So maybe we'll give you a preview of that.
Yeah, you're reminding me of so I've been coaching for a long time, like a decade plus, and I've missed, I think like, I mean, like a total miss, like just didn't show up for a session like one time. Like out of all my sessions, I think
You have a better track record than I do. I've
and it
missed
was
at
on a
least two or
travel
three.
day. It was on a travel day. Um or no, it was 2 times. One of them was a travel day. But these are earlier on in my coaching career because I hadn't figured out how to totally plan really well for everything. But I remember missing that session because I was getting ready to go to the airport and I just didn't even think I didn't remember that I had a session for
Yeah.
some reason. Like, and travel days do this to you when you're traveling, and you probably know this from travel just generally. It's like everything is weird and you're not used to your routines. And like, if I like right now, I know my routine is like from 5 to like 9, it's family time and I can't do anything else.
Hmm.
And it's just family, it's dinner and maybe we go to the park, maybe it's like we read books, maybe we play, and maybe we do bedtime. It's like it's family time. It's just what it
Yeah.
is. And there's nothing gonna happen between 5 and 9. It's like weekdays, weekends, whatever. It's always exactly the same. But when I tell somebody, okay, look, I'll talk to you tonight, before going to bed, I have to think like, actually, no, it's gonna have to be at 9:30, and it might not happen depending if the kids go to bed or not. So I don't check my calendar after 5 anymore. And so if I ever have anything on there at 9:30, it's very unlikely for me to actually remember that. So I just don't do that anymore unless I tell them like, you're gonna have to call me. I don't check my calendar after 5. And if you're not willing to call me, then we'll schedule a different time. It's like this is what happens on travel days. And so when
I,
you're
I
traveling,
remember the times where you used to have a lot of evening calls.
I used to, yeah. That was a long time. So you knew me before I had kids, right? So
And you would also invite me to those calls. I'd be like, no, it's not gonna happen.
yeah, that's delusional. But sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and you only learn by going through it. Um,
Yeah.
and so your video's frozen, by the way. Um,
Oh, is it?
but maybe I'll just continue and share like when I went to Costa Rica we planned to go for 2 months, and we took our child with us, and there's a huge amount of logistics, and I have to say my wife did an amazing job of finding a place and sorting through nannies. I mean, we did talk about those things, but my wife led the charge on that stuff. And we found an amazing nanny to help us while we were there. And that's like half the battle. It's like being able to like find the places and the people that can support you in your journey, and to have an environment, setting yourself up in an environment that is conducive for your goals, whether that's work, whether that's family,
Yeah.
whether that's seeing the area. We actually thought we were going to go see more of Costa Rica. Actually, one of our delusional goals was, on the weekends we'll travel to other places in the country and see it. And we realized we're not going anywhere with a 1.5-year-old. And actually, that was the best thing ever because we got to go to the beach and we got to like integrate more with that one community in this area. And we got to sort of be more like living more like the people locally. And that's
Yeah.
one of the experiences we wanted. Like we're very big on when we go travel, we don't want to live in the luxury hotels. We want to live, well, I mean, we do, but we want to experience living in a place, not as opposed to just visiting it and you know,
Yeah.
not really connecting with the people and the culture. So it's really important to us that we do that. And so whenever we travel, we really make the efforts to go off the beaten trail and to find experiences and find people to connect to. And so that's what we did in Costa Rica. We stayed in this one area more rather than seeing the country fully, and we learned a lot about that area of Costa Rica, Manuel Antonio. And working was really interesting. It was so like your priorities also change a little bit because now you're in Costa Rica, so you
Yeah.
might not as much. so
Yeah.
so the amount I wanted to work started shifting, and the times I wanted to work started shifting, and I wanted to spend more time with people we were meeting there, and more time with my family, and learning Spanish. And we used to go to the market. So there is a lot of glamour to it. I will say this. It's really fun to be able to like go to the market and buy your own vegetables. And we used to take these. We used to bring like this giant like amount of vegetables home for the week, fruits and vegetables, and we take Jaden to the market. So the first bird he learned about was toucan and macaw. Like he didn't learn like robins and eagles because he was just learning how to speak, and he learned it in Spanish, which is toucan is a toucan, but and a lapa is a macaw. But it was really cool to just see him like learning the language and learning the fruits and vegetables and things, and just like living down there with us. He had no idea it's different than what he was going to live like at home. So we just had these experiences where we go to the market and we like come home and cook, and we get help to do
Yeah.
some of those things. But you have to learn a lot, and it's a very different lifestyle because you don't just have the same amenities that you have somewhere else. You don't have the same language fluency that you have somewhere else, and your brain starts to change. I think when you travel, especially when you live somewhere for a longer than a few days, your brain's like, okay, I'm gonna be here. I better pay attention to some things, and things are
You're
different.
not waiting for it to end. You're forced to adapt.
Yeah, exactly. You're waiting. You're not waiting for it to end. You're figuring out how to live in that place in that moment, and your brain definitely changes to what it's
Yeah.
paying attention to.
I want to speak to a couple of, and I've heard this both from coaches and my other set of clients, and I work with real estate investors too. They have very similar aspirations. One of the reasons why I like working with real estate investors is because they're actually looking for location and time freedom, many of them, and in different ways. Everybody has their unique ways of approaching that. Some people would want to stay in a place for a whole year. Some people want to go 1 month at a time or a few weeks at a
Mhm.
time. But if they have work or business that they're running, they want to do it as enough so they have time for their family and other things and traveling and other things that they want to do. But one of the challenges, pretty much everybody that I've seen they run into is their alignment with their partner, and how they set their vision for the future, because it's a big change, right? That even right now we're both fortunate to have wives who are kind of aligned with us, and we've worked on creating that alignment as well. But it's a big challenge when one of the partners don't feel aligned with the path that you're going on, and you don't know how to
Mm.
make that work. What has been your experience around
Oh
that?
my gosh, such a valuable point you're making right now. Like, if you have a partner and your relationship is not that great, or you can't communicate very well, or if you have very different views about travel, it might be even more valuable for you. I was gonna say you might want to have conversations about this first, but actually it might be more valuable for you to do some test travel, a shorter term test travel to see what it's like, what happens when you actually travel together.
Yeah,
Because so like when I first started dating Kate, I was like super proud of my extreme travel. Like, I had been to like 30 plus countries, and I have done a lot of it for work. And I had visited, so I felt so well traveled. And then I talked to Kate, and she had visited way more countries, and she had lived abroad multiple times for extended, like 6 months, 2 years, in like places like Senegal and Burkina Faso. And I was just like, in Colombia, I was like, who are you? But that's one of the things about our relationship, is that we have a very common value around travel and connecting to other cultures in the world. And so that was something that we had in common. But not everybody has that in common, and we had it in common in different ways. We had to learn how to
yeah,
travel together too. And so and then you have to learn what you each want out of travel, and you have to learn what the other person wants, and then you have to learn how to travel together, because it's complicated, and that's all based on a foundation of your communication skills. And so the thing
yeah,
about travel with a partner is it makes you a better coach. How? Because it forces you to become a better communicator with your partner. It forces you to learn how to collaborate better with a partner, which is what you do with clients. You communicate and you collaborate. And so learning how to do those things with your partner is a really powerful skill, especially in travel, because there's higher stakes to
yeah,
like the daily conversations, right? And so putting yourself in environments where the stakes feel higher, and they are higher, really helps you learn like what the challenges are going to be in your relationship. And we have to go through those challenges. Even we would talk about work and try to help each other in our careers, but it didn't go very well at the beginning. And I remember we traveled for like a year together through multiple countries. And I remember talking to her about my coaching business, and she's just trying to help me figure out how to prioritize how do I want to focus it. And it just wasn't going well. Like, we didn't have like these conversations that were helpful. It was like she was like trying to like help me figure something out, but she was doing it her way. And I was like, that's not how I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it this way. And we could not get eye to eye. Today, though, after like years of discussion about all kinds of things, business related and travel related, we now understand what each other's weaknesses and strengths are. And so we're able to like really compensate for that in our
yeah,
planning and our conversations. So, but it's taken a long time, and it's a really important part of travel. If you have a partner whose spouse is going to travel with you, like
yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah, and it's also sort of like a microcosm of how you would set up your life as well. So however you're setting up your
What do you
life,
mean by that?
there's
Yeah.
what I mean. So traveling would be like a microcosm of like you're trying to work out something in a high stakes situation where a lot of things could go wrong. But life is kind of like that, and I think coaches or otherwise people underestimate how much there is to work out with each other, and
Yeah.
how much visioning and planning it requires for you to even create something that feels aligned with both of you. And in your case, you both you both like traveling, you both travel a lot, and in our case we have different needs around that, and it's very different. I like traveling. I like being in different places. I like the novelty of it. But for example, Sarah likes being in one place more. So we had to kind of adjust for that. She's open to traveling. She adapts well with that stuff, and that's one of the things that I love about her. But we've had to work out what works for her versus for me because she likes the security of a space that's more there's routine in there and there's uh, some level of organization versus being in chaos constantly. And
Chaos. That's a good word. That's a good word to be aware of. Chaos. And remember, there's a travel website called kayak.com where you can plan your travel. One of their filters, they can filter for like how much overnight time, like do you want a red eye? And they have these like ways to prioritize. Do you want like shortest duration flights, or do you want longest layover, or what do you want with shortest
yeah,
layover? And they have this one meter. It's called agony. You can say like prioritize for lowest agony,
yeah,
which I love. And the chaos and the agony is part of travel, right? It's like, okay,
yeah,
well, what is the likelihood that our layover gets messed up, and then what happens as a result, and how do the partners deal with it together, is
yeah,
part of that. But also, like as you were mentioning, the living arrangements. Like there was times in when we were traveling for that year, we stayed in places for extended period of time, like a month, but we also had times where we were moving like every day, every 2 days, and it was like
yeah,
totally insane, and it just wears on you, and then your communication gets worse because everybody's burnt out. So
yeah.
like factoring in your energy and energy management is part of the game.
Yeah, so we had to drive down here, so it was multiple days of travel, and you could tell it was taking a toll on all of us. It wasn't just and everybody deals with it differently, reacts to it differently. And we noticed that as we traveled less frequently within the region, we were able to kind of
Exactly.
manage our energy a little bit better. And this place, we've been almost 2 weeks now. This is the most, I think, relaxed we have been because we haven't had to move anywhere and do anything other. Before this, we were moving pretty much every week or every 3, 4 days.
Oh
And so
man.
that taught us a lot around, okay, and especially with an RV, it's setup required. Even though it's fairly within an hour you can set up stuff, but every time you move there are unpredictabilities that happen, and new place you go to, especially with my work connection setups and where am I going to work, and we still haven't figured out the whole work situation as much because we kind of came with this as an experiment how it will work, and now we're understanding how the work situation needs to be set up for this to become more of a routine because there needs to be some level of structure for this to work.
Like, how does it actually work in practice on the ground? Like, how we thought it would work was how it actually
Yeah.
works. It's always different.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we both did engineering, and what looks like in the design phase versus the actual creation phase and how it works in real life is a completely different story. So you have to, no matter how much you prepare, no matter how many things, we've watched, I think, hundreds of videos and have read books on RV and all that stuff. But
Thousands,
at at
maybe, right?
at by the time we came, it was like, oh, we weren't prepared for this. We weren't prepared. We didn't know this. We didn't know
It
that, and
doesn't
we
matter
had
how
to.
much you watch or prepare, right?
Yeah. Which talks to the business side of things too. So a lot of coaches go this into this mode, and I want to speak to that because we're also talking about the coaching business side of things. It works the same way in your business as well. You study the business, you study marketing, you study sales, you study. At some point you're going to need to put it into action, figure out most of it actually in experience. And this is why we've set up our community like this, is because actually most of the learning that's going to happen is when you actually start to apply the principles and troubleshoot and work through them and make sense of them. And that takes a little bit of time, at the least a year. I'd say at least a couple of years for you to make sense of how the business world works. And it's all the same. So, and there needs to be business teaches you about life, life teaches you about business, travel that we're talking about, it helps you understand how you can navigate a world that's a little bit more chaotic so you can adapt a lot better. And actually, one of our strengths as human beings is our ability to adapt. And that's what even when you're talking to clients and I'm working with clients, I actually rely on that a lot. Most people don't think they're adaptable, but it's in our genes to be adaptable as human beings, regardless of where you come from, and then our unique strengths and other things that come into it. So if you're a coach and kind of sitting there, well, when am I going to create that life that I'm thinking about? Well, you got to give yourself some time to adapt, and you got to get the support that you need to move towards that.
Yeah, and you can start now in little ways. There's definitely
Yeah,
ways you can begin, even in terms of exploring what's possible, right? Like you said,
yeah,
you're doing lots of research. But I want to highlight a point you made. This is really important for coaches, actually, because um, the design phase and the implementation phase always go differently. The planning and the actual living of it goes differently. This is actually a fundamental principle in life, is that when the rubber meets the road, or when the time comes to actually do, it's going to be different than the plan. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that practice and planning is not important. What it means is that experience is important, right? The experience of it, whatever it is. So, and this goes back to when you're working with clients and when you're looking at your own life. When you are thinking about, what do I want my life to look like, or what does my client want in their life? Knowing that the plan and the idea might be different than what we find out along the journey. It might, not only might that plan shift, but it might not be exactly the way we envisioned it, right?
Yeah.
And so working on that, then this is one of the reasons we need coaching too, to help us achieve some of those things, because as we hit the rubber onto the road has potholes, and the road has turns
Yeah.
and curves, and the road has places where there's no barriers. And
Yeah.
so being able to stay focused on the destination, but enjoying the journey on the way, like there's so much that changes along the way,
Yeah.
right? And we think we want this destination, and we want to achieve these things, and sure, we can make progress towards that, but knowing that it's not going to go, it's not always linear, it's not always the same. In fact, it's almost always not the same
Yeah.
as you imagined it to be, is a really powerful point for why coaching is a great process for people.
Yeah. And I don't think, I mean, there are very few people, actually, I haven't met anybody that can predict a lot of the variables of what's going to happen. People are really, some people are really good at planning and preparation. But the thing that actually makes something possible is that adaptability and flexibility in how you implement that in the process, and the
Yes.
network that the people that they're surrounded with. So there are both sides of it. One side of it is that it will be hard for you to anticipate all the challenges, and in fact, even impossible, because you don't know in your unique situation what you're going to run into. But the other side of it is also is that you're gonna, and this is what I count on a lot, is that every new experience is an opportunity for internal things to open up, your abilities and skill sets and awareness. And it's also an opportunity for you to connect better with those around you. It's also an opportunity on the business side. So, for example, I've been here, I've already met one client that I did an online session with, but he was close here. We met in
Wait, what do you
person.
mean? What does that online session mean? What does that
So
mean?
I did a live session with him, a live discovery call with him, and I was supposed to do a follow-up call with him afterwards. He was near here when he found out about it. He wanted to meet me in person, and I spent a couple hours. We went for a meal. I'm pretty sure he was sold on me as his coach, even though we didn't do any coaching in that process. But that I wouldn't have had that opportunity had
What
I
did you
not.
guys do? Just tell me. Like, I'm just curious. Like, so what did you guys do?
We just talk like human beings, and most of it was around our values, and we connected around values, how we look at our life, how we think about our life, and all that stuff. And I think he wanted to. He actually, he's the one who wanted to. He's like, if I can see you, let's meet in person. He was more adamant around it. And I was like, okay, maybe he really needs to see me before he decides
Yeah,
to move
totally.
forward. And there's everybody has a different level of tolerance around it. So it's possible that he might have not even signed up had he not known more, or this journey would have taken longer for him to sign up with me. But I think that accelerated the process. And at the end of it, I didn't even say anything about the offer or anything. He's like, when you get back, let's talk about the how we can move forward. He's the one
Yeah, and
who said
actually,
that.
now that I'm thinking about it, this is actually a really interesting point. That conversation can shift what the offer looks like too. You can actually, if in-person stuff is important to this person, you can work in travel into the proposal, right? And so if like I was talking to Rich Liffin the other day. No, I was on a program of his, and he talked about like the experiences you can create for clients. It doesn't have to be get on a call every week. It can be, we're gonna
Yeah,
meet in
it can be
Fiji
different.
for 3 days, and that's
Yeah,
part of the program. You're going to pay for it.
yeah,
That's part of your travel to get there. And it's included in the program fee. But you could actually do stuff like that. You could create an experience somewhere where you meet him,
yeah.
because that seems to be valuable to him. And you can work that out. You can creatively co-create that program,
Yeah,
right?
I've done that in small doses with clients, and it doesn't even have to be anything coaching related. Just if I've taken clients on like a whole day when I went to Denver, like him and his wife, I took him on a whole trip, like it was Garden of the Gods in Colorado, beautiful place. We went through like a guided mountain trip, and just I know we connected a lot there, and I got to meet his family, and they were really appreciative because they were very new to the area. They had never gone. I just made it, and it was kind of a last minute decision on me. I didn't even tell them that it's part of the package, but I just did that. But I know that made a big difference in our relationship and how they see me as a person, as their coach.
Yeah.
But I know my both I think two of my coaches, they actually take people on 3 day and 2 day trips, like they or a 1 day. I know a couple of our members do like a 1 day intensive. Um, so it does make a big difference in the experience and connection and trust and all that stuff.
Yeah, I love that. And this is so relevant to our topic too, because you can include travel as part of your
Yeah,
coaching, right?
yeah,
So for example, if you love going to Hawaii and your clients would benefit from that experience, you can make that part of the program,
yeah. I love
right?
that, and
That
especially
takes a
as
lot
it
of
becomes
confidence, right?
predictable, right? If you see that you're going to Hawaii at predictable times.
Yeah.
So for example, we'd be coming, if we're coming here every year, then in those 4 months, I can make it a part of the package where I have 1 day intensives throughout, spread apart with a few of my clients, which is, I'm realizing that right now as we're speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, you could, that's a good one. I like that. So if you know you're traveling, tell your clients, hey, I'm gonna be here. I'm doing a client intensive. It'll be 4 hours. It'll be in Florida in the Everglades or whatever. We're gonna do it outdoors. You can make up an amazing experience.
There's a chance you'll get eaten by an alligator, but
Totally worth it. Um, and the clients that really want to do that will just do it, right?
yeah,
And you, or you could go the other way, which is like, let's specifically make, so this, maybe this client specifically loves um like mountains. So you could take them to like a mountains rope course somewhere as part of the experience, or you could just meet them for like a really cool mountain experience, right? You
yeah,
guys could both fly. Like imagine if you charge a client whatever you charge them, and they said part of the program is on this particular weekend, about midway through the program, we're gonna both fly and meet in the Rockies. And there's a little restaurant there that we're gonna have dinner at, and we're gonna stay there for 2 days and work through your life. And you're gonna come
yeah,
out of that with like not only an amazing experience, but we have a couple other surprise activities planned for you. And they don't
yeah,
even know. They just go. Like you can do anything.
yeah.
Like you can just use your creativity. Even
And
fly to them. Like who knows? You can do anything.
And you can also scale that. So I'm also thinking in terms of
Yeah.
while you're somewhere where people, so many of my clients are in the East Coast, they're in the cold region. They will, if I just tell them like come here for 2 days for an event, we'll do it with like 5 or 6 people only exclusive event. I think they'll just for the sake of getting away from winter do, but the bonus will be, hey, I'll get coaching and I'll be around
That's
the right
good.
people.
That's
I'll
good. I like
network
that.
with people. So you could
Yeah. And
do create
actually,
like a small event. You don't have to organize a big one, like a small 5 or 6 or 10 people event, and just do like a sort of a retreat slash event for a couple of days. I would want to do that.
yeah, and actually you could make it a premium event. Like, hey, it's all covered. Your lodging and your food and stuff is all covered. We're all staying in the same hotel or whatever. And or maybe it's a big mansion in a remote area. That's
Mhm.
pretty cool. And you just you'll live there overnight. Um and yeah, like I love the creation. Like I'm getting really creative here because I like how could I craft an experience for this group or this client that would be really conducive to what they're trying to achieve and would really connect with them personally. So you knowing your client is part of that, but also knowing what you can do in a particular environment with clients is also important.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I want to speak to one other aspect of the whole traveling. One of the things that I kind of knew had an idea around this, but I didn't realize how important it was until I started traveling more. So the people who connect with me, whether my clients, whether they're coaches or investors, like I mentioned, they have similar aspirations as me. So when they see me, it's interesting. When they see me in these settings, their credibility of me raises because now they're like, oh, he's created it. How has he created? How is he running a couple of businesses in this remote area? It has a subconscious effect on how they
Mm.
perceive you. And because they aspire towards things like that, they look at you as more of a guide towards that. It's
If
very,
you're
and you can
traveling
tell.
remotely and working and they want that too, they're going to see you doing it and be like, oh, automatically they're like, yes.
Yeah. And that's not going to apply to everybody, but I'm not saying completely change your life to be like that for your clients, but I'm saying if that's part of your thing, share that a little bit more. And for me, I don't need to share it too much. I just on my calls, I'm outside and they ask me, where are you? You don't look like you're in your normal setting. Just me sharing a couple of things like, oh, that's incredible. How are you guys doing that? This and that. And that you can tell their perception starts to shift of, oh, we're like, I need to be there. I need to be around this person because people, especially people in business, understand they need to be around the right network. So even if you put aside coaching, like just them understanding that I'm going to be connected to somebody who is in the network of people who do stuff like this, it's incredibly valuable for them.
There's that book, Who Not How. Who's that by
Mhm.
again? I can't remember. But
It's
it'll come to me.
it's up my mind too.
Yes,
You
exactly.
wrote 10x is not 10x is better than 2x too, the recent
Yep.
one.
Yep. It'll come. It'll come. But anyway, it's not who. It's what. No, just kidding.
You don't need to read the book. That's what he's saying.
Well, the
No, it is
title
a
kind
good
of gives
book.
it away. The title kind of gives it away. But the point is like people want to be around people because it's all about who, right? And it's a good reminder for all of us as coaches, who you're around, which means your clients too, who you're around is going to influence you. And
Daniel Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy.
thank you. Thank you. Did you look that up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you did. I saw your eyes go, and I thought your arms were moving. People can tell if you're typing on the Zoom. Yeah. So when you when you travel, and um, people recognize that about you, that they want to be around that energy. There's a phenomenon happening where there's like an energetic attraction, right? And so um, people are influenced by that energy. We're influenced by the energy of everybody around us. So, including
For those who are into law of attraction, you will understand. You've bought into that.
I'm not even saying law of attraction. I'm just saying like we are attracted to energy. We're
Yeah.
repelled by energy. Like some people's energies just don't work for us, right? And I wanted a more scientific way of explaining this earlier in my life, and I realized like energy is actually a pretty good way. It's like the energy I'm sensing from this person I don't like, so I don't want to be around them, right?
Yeah, you remind me there's so one of my friends who's a coach as well, there's something we kind of make fun of. Anybody who's in the Mind Valley world. So when you're in any kind of Mind Valley event, you hear two words so much. You hear the universe.
I was gonna say universe. Yeah, I was gonna say universe.
Uh, Actually, maybe three things. Law of attraction, you'll hear that a lot. The universe. There's one other phrase, or word, and they definitely repeat, but at least the universe is repeated. So they don't say God, but they will say the universe. So they mean the same thing probably, but it become like a running joke. Every two sentences, you will hear that from participants and from the facilitators a lot, because that's how they communicate. That's how they align with those ideas. But anyway, it's just a funny thing we have is like you can be sure. I sometimes I'll just count how many times they will say it.
It's like bingo or drinking game around like
Yeah.
how many does they say universe and how many shots can you have to take? Um, but actually, you make me think of something about travel right just now, which is about personal development and coaching related opportunities. Because when we were traveling in, I think we started, well, the year of travel that we did in 20, I want to say 2018 or 2019. Can't remember which year it was, but it was before the pandemic, so we timed it really well. We started out in Chile and we ended up in Buenos Aires, Argentina for a couple months, and then Brazil. But while I was doing this travel, I was traveling within a group of people. The first time we did that, first few months was with a group of people who were also traveling and working remotely. And so they kind of like you kind of all came to the same city, and you had like a shared co-working area. Like we would rent the co-work space from the local co-work.
That would be really
And
cool. I haven't done that.
it was really cool. There's another company that does this. The company that we were with went bankrupt. It's a hilarious story. Well, not hilarious, but like it's a really funny story from my perspective, having been part of the company. Um,
Probably not for them.
no, well, no, definitely not for a lot of people. But that's a story. It is. There's a funny version of the story that I tell from my experience of it. But that's for another time. But while we were traveling with this company, the other company that does this is called Remote Year. People may have heard of it, where you join this cohort of people, and they're all remote workers. Some are entrepreneurs, some are not. This is just like our group. And so one of the things that happen in this community, if you travel and you embed yourself in communities, this is one of the things I want to say about travel. not only can you embed yourself in a community of travelers, but you can also embed yourself in communities while you're traveling. And so one of the most powerful things you can do as a traveler, as a coach specifically, is get into communities because
Yeah.
number one, you're going to have a much richer experience of life as part of a community, obviously. Number two, you never know who you're going to meet, who can support you or you can support on your on your while you're traveling. And some of my clients have come from people I've met in the communities I've been part of. And so one of the things that happened when we were traveling, the expat community or the traveling community that we were with, I, I did some workshops for them. And so I did, coaching workshops and group coaching for them. The first month I did it once or twice. And then uh, when were we in Chile still? Yeah, I think we were still in Chile. One of the people in the co-work saw me doing, like one of the locals from the co-work saw me doing a workshop in the conference room. And they came out, I came out and they're like, "Oh, what were you doing there?" And I was like, "Oh, I was doing a workshop. I think it was productivity or something, something coachy." And like, "Oh, that's really cool." And I'm saying, "What do you do here?" And she's like, "Well, we're part of this. It was like an incubator for startups in that co-work in Chile." And they're like, "Well, we think you guys could you do one of those for our folks?" And I'm like, "Yeah, totally." And so I did a workshop for them, and it gave me some experiences about group coaching and traveling and working. It gave me a lot more confidence in doing workshops, and then I continued to do them as we went for the members. So I had several workshops done, and I had a few clients that came out of doing those workshops and multiple connections that I could do because multiple groups asked me to do those things. So it was really
That's really
fascinating to
cool.
see how like things just evolved randomly because I was willing to try some stuff with the communities that I was embedded in. And part of that
Yeah.
is building relationships so that you can do those things. And part of it is just taking that heart of service and trying to like help people. And most
Yeah.
most of these workshops were totally free. I
Yeah.
didn't charge
You
them.
you actually just gave a strategy around how you could get clients while traveling.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's a very sound strategy because I would do the same thing. So I live in Canada, but most of my clients, 98% of my clients are from US. And I've thought about that my opportunities would actually increase. At least that's been my idea if I am more in US because I don't like traveling too much for conferences away from the family. So
Yeah.
what would happen if I'm more here and I'm closer to the opportunity and my ideal clients are here? So as I set up part of my time here, I would be thinking about those like, okay, because there are a lot of, for example, investors run a lot of meetups in smaller events that are not bigger events that I go to. I could just drive down there and just do a workshop, and that would be a very simple way to get a bunch of clients.
Yeah.
And that's a really cool way to build your skill sets as well while you're doing that.
Yeah, and let's not get into this too much, but as you travel, there may be requirements of visas and things that you might need to think about. We don't talk about it right now, but there are you can, for example, start companies in other countries if you want
Yeah.
to. I don't know if that's the way you want to do it. You probably don't.
Well,
But
I have a couple of companies here already, so
there you go. And you
that
don't even
that's
like in
already
the
set.
States, you don't actually need a social security number to start a company in the States. There's ways to do it
Yeah.
without it, as an example.
Yeah.
And then once you have that company started, then you can get a federal
Yeah.
EIN, and then you can get a bank account, and then you can actually receive money. So there's lots of ways that you can do
Good thing
things,
is I have all that set up.
and you operate it from Canada, right? So there's
Yeah.
lots of ways
Well,
to
I operate the Canadian business from Canada, but then I can operate the US business here.
you can do a lot of things just as long as you get yourself set up correctly and
Yeah.
legally to do all the right things. But there's
Yeah.
complexities to all that. This is we're really just talking about complexities of business.
Yeah.
But cross-border business is really interesting too because there's complexities around that. So
So so
part
what
of the thing you need to do as a coach, I think, is get more knowledgeable about business. Like I'm still learning about business every day. And I
yeah.
think it's really important to educate yourself about business as much as you can, right? Especially the
Yeah.
parts that are relevant to where you're headed.
Yeah. And just a couple of points we didn't talk about as much. One is we shared it a little bit, but kids. So our kids are homeschooled, for example, and my wife did notice, and we did notice that they need more connection time with other kids as
Yeah.
well. She has a community of other homeschooling moms back home. And so we've already met at least one family that we really clicked with, and they're going to be back here in Florida. And my kids are already connected with them on Kids Messenger, where they're continuing the conversation, and they really clicked with each other, and we clicked with their parents. And they've been doing this whole traveling thing for the past 6 months, so longer than us, like full time, they've been doing it. and they were looking, and they're like, we thought that it would be hard to find people, but they got embedded into communities as well, and they've already met like 5 or 6 families that they meet with and connect with and grow together. So there's also a component of how you, if you have kids or if you have other people in your family, that you need to think about that, how that would operate. And because at least for us, like we have a lot of family and friends back home, you would miss them. And you need that social component to where you are. Part of it, you're just going to meet people randomly. Part of it, you might need a little bit of an effort to be put in this area.
Yeah, and actually, what you just described was actually really, really valuable strategy too, which is connect with people who can align with what you're doing in your
Yeah,
own home area, right? If you can find people in your home area that have that alignment with travel, maybe have some alignment with values. For example, a homeschool community is really great because you have people who have similar values. They're all
yeah,
interested in homeschool. But then how educational would it be for that homeschool community to all go to Florida for 2 months
yeah.
together and
Yeah.
homeschool out there? And maybe you could find a homeschool community in Florida to do some exchange type work
Yeah,
with.
and there are a lot. So we're also looking to add get a membership. There are membership for RV homeschool RV community, like
Dude, that's
families
so
who are
cool.
traveling with RV, and
Mhm.
usually, more than likely, their kids are homeschooled because that's one of the easiest ways you can do this. Anyway, even those who we've been watching, like I had an idea yesterday, we were watching some videos on YouTube around families who've been doing this 5, 6 years. I'm like, we can just go meet them, just ask them where they are because they are always traveling, and just connect with them and see. And we really like the way they were sharing some of the things, and it felt very aligned with us. And some people we've just met here, they're homeschoolers.
Can I ask?
Um,
Can I ask how do you and how does your wife manage to do travel plus homeschool plus work?
okay, well,
I know she's working a little bit,
she
right?
is super in that sense.
Yeah, but
So
like
she
like
she
like I'm
does
just
spend a
logistically,
lot
I'm,
of.
I'm just like my mind is exploding right now.
So the way we've structured our family is her main focus is kids. So that has been the case, and that was based on our values from the beginning, that we wanted to be around, we wanted to raise our own kids. So that was one of our primary values. So which meant that at least one of us is with the kids. And especially a decade ago when I was starting to build a business, so she didn't work and I was doing this, which presented its own challenges, but at least on the family side, we felt good about that. So her full-time job is to be with the kids, and she also homeschools the kids. So there are things that she outsources around subjects that she doesn't feel confident in. And she's also built an amazing community of other homeschooling moms in our region. It took her a little bit of time for her to figure out all the pieces. And then she's also a coach, as you know. So at this point, she only works 1 or a day and a half, something like that, a week. And when we're back home, we have somebody that stays with the kids. But here, so that's
Uh,
another logistical issue. So, for
yeah.
example, on Wednesdays, today she usually has sessions, so we have to kind of switch between sessions back and forth. So if she has sessions, I would be with the kids, and if I have sessions,
Okay.
she'd be with the kids. So we have to kind of organize and arrange and work with our time. But it makes it a little bit, because you guys both work more. I know Kate is off now, but generally you both work a lot more than us on both sides. So you
Yeah,
have a lot more logistical challenges around it.
we both tend to work full time. Right now, Kate is off because we just had a baby. So we have
Yeah.
like a newborn still, and so Kate is still off. She took some time off from work, but she'll be going back to work. So we're gonna be taking advantage of like daycare slash school as well. But in the meantime, what we've done in the past when we were in Costa Rica, especially, but a lot of the time when you have kids, like we are always like in constant communication about trading off which times who needs to be with the kids when. Because sometimes, and even times if it's intentional, where we decide we're not going to have childcare or the childcare can't make it or is sick or something, all of a sudden we have to like figure out who's doing what. Because now it's like, okay, so I have like a full week and Kate has a full week, and our babysitter for the week just canceled. What do you do? Right. And now it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's Sunday night. We just found out it's midnight. We got to text somebody's vomiting and will not be able to be there in the morning. Thank you for texting me. So we have to get up and figure out, well, what are we going to do on Monday? Like tomorrow, what are we going to do? So then we figured out, okay, Monday, I'll cancel these 3 calls. You cancel those 3 calls and we'll just trade off. Sometimes it's like my call goes like 2 minutes over and then she has to put the crying kid in the bassinet. And then I have to like get on my call and go get the kid for like that extra 2 minutes. And it's super complicated.
Yeah.
But this happens when you're traveling too, because things don't go the way you think. they're gonna go.
Yeah.
Especially when you get there, like all of a sudden, like you need more buffer time when you're traveling for coaching than
Yeah.
you think. But it gets complicated. It gets super complicated, and
So,
you have
so
to have
this
complicated
also,
methods of
you're
communication.
also you're also speaking to the design of people's lives. So,
Yeah,
and this is why Warren's so much thinking. This is why I keep normally when we're back home, I have like about a 20 to 25% room in my calendar for
yeah.
flexibility. But when I'm traveling right now, I purposely kept about 40%
You need it. You need it.
of flexibility because there are things that are going to be completely outside of my control, and I need to have that. And you will need to not only design your business that way, but even right now, if you're in the beginning stages of your business, think about what kind of opportunities, what kind of partnerships, all sorts of things that you're getting into, whether or not that will work with your lifestyle. And so, for example, if you, Sherry, and I didn't have similar values, it would be very hard to work as partners. I know of other partnerships where people are like, no, you have to meet at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock every night. And there's one partner that is kind of left out who doesn't have the same values and he wants to spend time with his family. It's like, what do I do? It's like, this is the only
It's
time
hard. It's
everybody's
hard.
meeting. It would be very difficult, right? So, whether you're working with others or the way you're designing your calendar, structuring your days, designing your business, there's a lot of thinking to be done. And these are things that people underestimate because it's not the same as a job. Even though you have the freedom to design it how you want, it's actually very fairly difficult to do it.
It's
And
actually
especially if
harder
you're,
because the job gives you the structure. And it's
yeah,
easy to let the job structure you when you're in a job because I've done that.
yeah,
Been in corporate, and it's like here's all the meetings you go to, and then your calendar's
yeah,
full because you didn't take control of your meetings, right? Of your
yeah,
schedule. But in your own life, the same thing can happen. It's just a lot harder because you have to do it yourself. But you
yeah,
have to think about like why do I want to build this coaching business and what do I want out of it and how should my life why do I want my life
yeah,
to be set up as and am I doing things in my coaching business that really don't get me to that goal, you know?
yeah. Yeah, and this it's amazing how many times people jump into opportunities that doesn't sustain their lifestyle. They kind of, what we're really saying is
Might hurt it.
design your business around your lifestyle versus the other way around. I think that's the biggest promise of a business like this, whether it's in the investing world or the coaching
Yeah.
world, is that it allows you the freedom to create a business based on the lifestyle and values that matter to you.
Yeah.
And but most people forget. I've seen investors who have a lot of assets. They create a job for themselves because they didn't think through this enough.
I've done that so many times. I've created
Yeah,
jobs for myself that I don't want, by
yeah,
trying opportunities in a way that wasn't really thoughtful.
yeah,
Now I'm like very thoughtful about what opportunities to get into, but
yeah.
it's been challenging for sure.
It definitely is challenging. And one last point quickly, I want to share this. That there's a, for me at least, the pole tours being in a space like this, like we're like we're a tenth of our normal space in an RV.
You
So
want
we
to
have
show
a,
where you are? Can you show like oh well your
it's a
video
bit of a mess,
drive?
but so I'll show you. So my wife is right now
Oh, we lost your
cleaning the.
video.
Hold on, let me just.
I know your video is a little finicky when force you to move it.
Okay, we'll figure it out. So my camera, whenever I turn it, it stops working
Yeah,
for
that was
some
pretty
odd reason.
anticlimactic.
I know.
Show us the glamour of travel. Well, this is part of actually this is a really good point. Like when you're traveling, things aren't set up the way they are at home. And so
Yeah.
you like even
So I
internet,
actually
I
I
remember
actually have a
internet
different
challenges.
camera at home. There it
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
So you can see the mess around me because we're cleaning, my wife's cleaning the car, but we're in an RV resort right now. So there are
That's
RVs
cool.
around us, behind me.
That's great.
Again,
Yeah. That's awesome. And things
behind
don't
me
go
is
according to
our
plan when
camper.
you're on the road, right? Like you just had some tech challenge with the camera. That was a nice, easy one. But when we went to Costa Rica, we had internet problems for the first few days. And so we had
I did,
to try other things.
I did too. I had internet problems when I came in because I was still trying to figure out how this stuff will work out. And right now I'm having it. So I have a completely different camera at home, but this was a lighter camera that I traveled with compared to the bigger one. Um,
Still can't see you. But you have Starlink right now from an internet perspective, right?
I do. So Starlink was a godsend, by the way. Anybody thinking about traveling? It was once I set it up, that actually solved a lot of my problems.
Yeah, that's
Um,
good. That's really good.
and my camera doesn't want to come online again. But I'll just continue right now. So, but the point that I was trying to make is that small spaces actually has forced us to connect better and actually forced us to deal with problems a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just us. We heard this a lot from other RVers and other travelers, where this small space and being outdoors and having to figure out challenges and problems actually brought them together as a family. For me, that was really, it was at least a cool theory. Like, okay, would that be the same? And at least in the past few times that we've traveled, I've felt that we get closer as we are in these kind of spaces.
I think
Uh,
that's partly because the shared collaboration of creating that experience, or the shared problem solving that is necessary. Like if you're going through an airport and somebody drops their phone somewhere, like you're gonna collaborate to find that phone, or if something happens and the flight's delayed, you're gonna be there together. You're gonna figure it out. Or if the
mhm.
flight gets canceled, like you have to figure it out. The sheer necessity of collaboration forces communication, and hopefully your communication is good enough that that is a positive thing, or even just good enough that it can help your communication. And you
Yeah,
go through this experience, and at the end of the experience of the craziness, the chaos, you've grown in
yeah,
your ability to handle the chaos, your ability together to handle the chaos, and your ability to communicate about that chaos. And the next chaos is going to be that much easier, which means you're
yeah.
now able to have greater chaoses that you can handle in the future.
Yeah, and by the way, that is emotional resilience.
Exactly, exactly. I would say
And
today, me and Kate, I feel like we could handle almost any travel situation you put us in. I feel like zero challenges that I feel zero. I feel 100% confident that you put us anywhere, we'll figure it out and it'll be fine. And maybe it'll be stressful, and maybe we'll get on each other's nerves, but we'll come out through it and be solid and be even better. That's what I think is
yeah,
gonna happen.
that makes me excited to travel with you guys, because I don't
I'm excited to
think I
travel with
feel
you
that
too.
confident
Okay, that being
yet.
said, we both got to go. This has been an amazing episode. Thank you for joining us today. If you're watching us live from within our school community, or if you are seeing this on the podcast, be sure to leave a comment about your experiences in travel. And if you'd like to join us in our community for coaches, go to cmc.coach/school, and you can join us today and be part of our amazing community of coaches that are building businesses. And maybe you're a coach that wants to build travel into your coaching business, or maybe you just want to build a business that can give you time and location freedom, then please come join us and we will help you move that business forward.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've learned, at least in the past decade of being in business, is that you need to be around the right people for you to build the thing that you're building. So if these things, the things that we've shared, is it's not just us who's doing them. Many of our community members are doing similar things, and they're going towards similar aspirations. Just being around those people, even outside of coaching and everything else, will, one, inspire you, will help you learn, will help you build the confidence to take steps forward. We actually have a couple members, at least one member, who's actually traveling to Portugal because she's heard so many that she finally went towards her thing because she's been in our community, and she's gotten so much support around that. Well, I think she's shared this publicly. So Sherry, congratulations.
That's awesome. All right. Well, nice chatting with you, Faisal. What a great topic. We'll talk to you next week in our podcast.
And please share your thoughts and comments about your travels as well, and share this with other coaches too. Until our next episode, hope you have an incredible day. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.